Hey, gang, Heinrich Haarberg is the starter, and Luke Reimer's back. What does it mean?
You are Locked On Huskers, your daily podcast on the Nebraska Cornhuskers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, gang, DP here, Locked On Huskers. Thank you for making Locked On Huskers your first watch and listen each and every single day. Greatly appreciate you. Before we get into this episode, Mark Onweiler, if you would please let him know about the Athletic Brewing.
Thank you, DP. This episode of Locked On Huskers is brought to you by Athletic Brewing. Athletic Brewing has completely changed the non-alcoholic beer game. They make non-alcoholic beers that actually taste good, full of flavor, well-crafted, just like the full-strength beers you love and enjoy. They're fit for all times, so you can drink them anytime, anywhere, and make any activity more enjoyable, like watching a big game, or your kid's game, or tackling work, or working out, or anytime you like to enjoy a beverage. Plus, hey, no hangovers, ever. You still get to drink beer without all those ugly side effects. You can find Athletic Brewing Company's non-alcoholic brews at a store near you, or buy them online at athleticbrewing.com. And first-time customers can use the code LOCKEDON to get 15% off your first online order. That's code LOCKEDON, Locked On, at checkout for 15% off at athleticbrewing.com. Near beer, exclusions and conditions apply. Athletic Brewing Company, fit for all times. DP, back to you.
Thank you, sir. As I said in the open, there's a lot of things going on. The news is breaking. So as we head to through this beat Northwestern week, this is kind of where we're focused. Returning players to the lineup, starters being named, new starters being added to the lineup, and then what it means, because they're going to have to face some folks from Northwestern, and we're going to go up and down the list of what some of the expectations, what some of the numbers are when it comes to Northwestern. Thank you for subscribing. If you haven't, we'll hit pause. I'll freeze. And you hit the subscribe button and get this content on a weekly basis. Of course, the news from Matt Rhule's presser is that Heinrich Haarberg is the starting quarterback. Jeff Sims will be available if needed, but Haarberg has played well enough to be named the starter. Now, make of that story what you will, what that news of what you will. But what Haarberg has done in this period of time, if you get the team on a roll and if you win 3 of the 4 games that you're supposed to win, right? I don't think anybody was expecting him to beat Michigan, but if you and the starting quarterback can get you 2 wins against teams that you're supposed to beat, and then you match up on equal footing on a Friday night in Illinois and get a win, a team who this weekend then went and knocked off undefeated Maryland, it speaks volumes. So yes, as the great prophet Crash Davis once said, never with a streak. When things are starting to go well and things start to move in a positive direction, stay with it until there's reason or proof that something needs to change. What that means for Haarberg is that, listen, not to look over your shoulder, but to have some confidence in what you've accomplished to this point. And then in really good circles, really good coaching circles, the thing that needs to be said to Heinrich Haarberg is this: do what we've asked you and shown you to do. That's all that's required in this thing. We haven't had, hey, go out and fumble the option practice. We haven't had, hey, go throw to the opponent's jersey day in practice. We haven't had those drills. So simply take care of the ball, make good decisions with it, and then get off the field with a kick and allow this defense that's playing extraordinarily well to have an opportunity to win the game for us. This is a defensive first team. Coach Rhule has said that. So in saying that, listen, just don't get us in trouble, young man. Don't go out and cause trouble. Don't turn the ball over. If the drive ends in a punt, a field goal, or an extra point, it's a successful day as far as Heinrich Haarberg is concerned. We also got the news that Malachi Coleman will now start at one of the receiver positions. And when you're talking about a true freshman who, yes, had all the accolades and all of the recruiting stories, that through patience and perseverance, and you don't want to get the job the way that it happened with injuries, but he still managed to work his way up up the ladder and up the depth chart, to where in a position of need, Matt Rhule and this coaching staff have decided that Malachi Coleman is the guy that they're going to send out there to catch passes for Nebraska. Now, Bullock on one side, we understand that with Billy Kemp, Fedoni. We have weapons. We understand that Grant and what he does out of the backfield and kind of what you're looking for from Emmett Johnson. Removing difficult things for new players. With Malachi Coleman, though, we've seen that he can block. We've seen that. We watched that. And again, the old Nebraska receivers adage, no block, no rock. Well, to see him in that place and to see that the coaching staff feels comfortable enough to dub him a starter in this place at home against Northwestern is a big deal. It's a big deal. Now, Marcus Washington's out. We understand that. Isaiah Garcia-Castaneda is out. If you lose a Marcus Washington is out, and you've lost 3 receivers, the whole next man up thing that Nebraska has been preaching and pushing is now in full effect and on full display. It's now a new quarterback, a first-year starting quarterback, throwing to 2 first-year starting receivers in Bullock and Coleman with new players behind them. Nebraska has 11 active lettermen on this roster. Here's the thing. When you do the check behind it, what you find out is there's only one receiver. I'll ask you Husker fans who that receiver is. And I'll give you an answer when we come back, because it's a bit stunning to me that they're going to go into a Big Ten game against an opponent that beat them a year ago with 1 letterman at the receiver position. Tell me who that receiver is. Put it down in the comments. Don't Google. Do that for me. When we come back, we'll go into who that player is, and then we'll talk about the defense that they're going to face this Saturday at Memorial Stadium. I'm DP. Hey, gang, welcome back to Locked On Huskers. Again, thank you for making Locked On Huskers your first watch and listen each and every single day. And you everydayers, thank you. High five for being a part of what we're doing as well. Mark Onweiler, if you would please, let them know about eBay Motors.
Thank you, DP. This episode of Locked On Huskers is brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more, whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. DP, back to you.
Thank you, Mark. Greatly appreciate what you do and making this thing go. I asked a question in the previous segment. Nebraska is going to go into this game against Northwestern with 1 active wide receiver who was a letterman. 1. I asked you who it was, if you knew who it was. If I said Ty Hahn and you said Ty Hahn, high five. High five. That's the only receiver. Yes, Billy Kemp IV is a veteran wide receiver through his time at Virginia, but the other receivers aren't lettermen. Washington is not active. So, look, there's a lot in display. There's a lot of things in play here in announcing that not only is Washington out, but that Bullock, Kemp, Hahn, Lloyd, Malachi Coleman, those are your guys. And yeah, I say that because it means that Fedoni and Borkature now may play a bigger role in the pass case catching scenario for Nebraska. And that's not a bad thing because, as I've said before, the easiest throw for quarterbacks in this space, especially young quarterbacks, is to big tight ends in open space and open windows right in front of them. So short throws into open space. Open space. This and when I mentioned who was starting and then asked the question what it means, it's because Northwestern's defensive front, while extremely savvy and filled with moxie, right? This is a smart group, but they're not the most athletic group, and they're certainly not the most productive group when it comes to getting sacks and getting pressures. The leading sacker has 3.5 sacks. Next to that is 1.5. And how they get pressure on opposing quarterbacks is down and distance situation. But there are ways to beat that. If Nebraska can, one, be consistent and firm in its selection in the run game. Listen, watching Northwestern's tape against Howard University, there were a few things in play. One, they're bullies, so when you get into long down and distance, they're going to make it difficult for Haarberg in making decisions. Where's the pressure coming from? What to do? They're going to spy on Haarberg. I'm not sure that that's a win for them, but it's a thing that they're going to have to do. And what it does is it takes one defender out of that space in crossing routes and mesh routes that they can use with Borkacher and Fedoni, or Fedoni and Kemp, whatever way you want to do it in that middle space. If there are 5 block, if there's a single back, look, Northwestern's going to bring an extra body, and then they're going to have that spy just kind of float to make sure that if Haarberg steps up, there's somebody there at the door to meet him. But a way to get beyond that is to be purposeful and attack the linebackers. If you attack the linebackers, and I don't mean with high throws, I mean he's going to have to be accurate, but short 4, 5, 6 yard throws create problems for Northwestern. But that's what needs to be done. We can't get them high. We understand that Haarberg likes to throw through different windows. Sometimes 3-quarter throw, sometimes from the sidearm. All of that works if the windows are clean and the offensive linemen are doing their job. But I like the offensive line matchups this week. I actually like the matchups. Think back to Nebraska in the first half a year ago. There are lettermen all over the offensive line, even on the depth chart. So there are guys who have faced Northwestern that have had some success against Northwestern in the running game. And I think that was a big part of it, was whether Nebraska is not only willing to establish the run, get the wins up front, but then to stay committed to it. And here's the other thing. Northwestern's defense it's a solid defense, but it's better when it doesn't have to account for a quarterback. And against Howard, they had some real problems. And I can tell you, Haarberg's a better runner than the Howard quarterback. And if the Howard quarterback had chosen to just punish them, he could have. Howard had a great running game from its back and cutback. So if you watch Grant this week, one, we need to watch the offensive linemen, especially the 3 interior linemen, getting to the second level. Northwestern hates it. They don't process it well. It takes some away of their movement. It takes away some of their pursuit. And they don't like the rub of having a 300-pounder at the next level. They don't handle it well. So Nebraska has some opportunities in getting Haarberg to the next level. A lot of that is establishing the base level run game and then creating problems at the mesh and having them make decisions on where they're going to do with it, and then good decisions and solid ball handling by Haarberg. I'm just telling you, there are things that Nebraska does offensively well when it's clicking that provides problems against Northwestern. And I watch them. Listen, they're athletic enough, but you can power Northwestern. You can just get in a slugging match with them and then simply just choose to outlast them. Haarberg is a difference maker when it comes to that, and it's in full display. Then the receivers outside, you can ask less. Listen, we're gonna try to get cornerbacks who peak at the run game, so that Malachi can get vertical, and then maybe a 50-50 ball with a safety that's got to sprint from in between the hash. Those are things that can be in play, especially if you run a tight end directly in front of that safety to hold them. If Fedoni gets loose, the safety has to hold Malachi over the top in a man-to-man is what I would expect. There's lots of things in play, but I like the offensive line for Nebraska in the matchup against Northwestern's defense. If they can get to second level against Northwestern's linebackers, it provides a whole nother set of opportunities. The unaccounted man is Haarberg in the offense. If they're going to continue to not be loyal to defending him, he could hurt him. And you Husker fans, you've seen him break when it's just one guy at broken tackle or it's him on a corner or safety, and there's advantage. Then that allows the throwing game to take place and allows Haarberg to have some options. What do you do with Malachi Coleman? What do you do with Bullock? What do you do with Kemp? What do you do with Fedoni? What do you do with Borkacher or Hahn or whoever is out there? There's an X factor that I haven't mentioned yet. We'll talk about that when we come back to Locked On. Hey, gang, thank you for making Locked On Huskers your first watch and listen each day. We were talking about Heinrich Haarberg as the starter. And now with players down, Malachi Coleman will get an opportunity. Ty Hahn gets the look. Bullock should get more targets. Billy Kemp is a factor. In the slot, option routes also can help clear out some linebackers for Haarberg to run the ball. Should take an additional person out of the box if he's utilized early. And I'll just say that in the first couple of drives, what I need Fedoni to get a touch. I need Billy Kemp to get a touch. I need for this to happen early. Look, if you're 3 drives in and they haven't been a factor, you're moonwalking. You're working backwards. And while it seems productive and it's cute, it takes you out of this thing. The only way that's okay is if Haarberg and Grant have just pummeled Northwestern on the ground game defensively. I watched the Howard running back just expose Northwestern's tackling and sometimes their discipline, that they weren't exactly disciplined. And it seemed like to me that some of it was distraction. Some of it was lack of focus. And then sometimes it was just running backs have speed and power, and sometimes it plays. But I'll tell you that Howard's running back and quarterback are not as good as Haarberg and Grant. Anthony Grant should be in triple figures Saturday at Memorial. He has to be. This has to be an 18 to 22 carry day for Anthony Grant. This has to be, I fully expect 15 to 18 carries for Haarberg. It'll eat the clock up. It'll put the defense on the field. But what this offense can do, and it hasn't shown in full, this is where you start to miss Ramir Johnson. This is where you miss Gabe Irvin. But throwing to backs out of the backfield against Northwestern's defense drives them crazy. It absolutely drives them crazy. Quick screens, quick developing pass routes, get the ball out of your hand, let your athletes be more athletic than Northwestern. Now, they rally to the ball, but what that sets up is short route, Malachi over the top. But what they do not want to see is Anthony Grant with 4 receptions for 38 yards. You don't want to see it. Nebraska does. Nebraska needs to find a way. Listen, allow your playmakers to get the ball in their hand and simply outlast Northwestern's tackling defense. Late in the game, Northwestern got fatigued. Their lack of depth showed up, and they simply could not make plays in space. And Howard, again, if you take away an early safety, the 2 points in that thing changed the entire game and changed the entire focus. Howard showed some holes. And remember, Howard came into this game 2-2. Those are the defending MEAC champions. I get that it's supposed to be a lower level. There are athletes in that program. It's solid coaching in that program. But what they did was they simply got in a closet and said, we're going to make you beat us in short space. And Northwestern held on for dear life because a 23-20 ball game is not what Northwestern was expecting at home against Howard. On the road, I'm pretty sure it'll be an interesting week of practice. I'm pretty sure all the film study was done, one, in reviewing what went wrong against Howard, what they did right, and to try to copy success. And then a few days of in the playbook that Nebraska runs and trying to figure out how are they going to scheme these athletes into a space where you're not putting 190-pound defensive backs to tackle Haarberg in open space? How many times are you going to ask these linebackers to take on Ben Scott, Nori, Ethan Piper, and then the stellar play of the tight ends? Give me this week to see Borkacher and Fedoni in full. Let's release them into the pass game. And it doesn't have to be up the seam. It doesn't have to be seam routes. It doesn't have to be the deep stuff. This is the move the chain. Hey, we get to regroup and keep their defense on the field so we can run the ball 2 more plays type of tight end play. Nebraska has some advantages. The numbers don't lie, but this is an opportunity for the Huskers. Lots to talk about more. We'll talk about the other side of this thing tomorrow. What does Nebraska's defense have to do to shut down this Northwestern offense? We will talk about that tomorrow on Locked On Huskers. Thank you for making Locked On Huskers your first watch and listen each and every single day. We'll close with the 3 words we love so much. Go Big Red.